What's happening, everybody? Welcome. This is Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio, episode 577. And today, Andrew and I are doing a rapid fire Q&A. We've never done this before. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited. I'm Jeremy Lesniak, joined, of course, by Andrew Adams over here at Whistlekick. And why do we do what we do? We do what we do because we love traditional martial arts. Everybody involved in Whistlekick loves traditional martial arts. And if you're watching, yes, there's video of this, or listening, there's a really good chance that you also love traditional martial arts. And if you want to show that love, oh, that's an awkward sentence, but we're going to leave it because it's video. You can do a lot of things to show your love for the traditional martial arts and, of course, the work that we're doing. You can make a purchase at whistlekick.com using the code podcast15. You could share episodes like this one with your friends who may not know about Whistlekick yet. Or you could support our Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. It's one of the ways that we offset the cost for this show. No, I don't pay Andrew, but there are still plenty of things that go into this. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe that's offensive to you. I'm sorry.
No, it's
good
fine.
All right.
It's all good.
I don't make any money on this show either. In fact, I pay a lot of money for this show. That's how much I love it. That's how important it is to me. Now, the show gets its own website. It's whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. All of Whistlekick gets a separate website, whistlekick.com. Go there, sign up for the newsletter, check out all the things we're involved in because we do a lot of stuff. It's more than this show. Why do we do what we do? This is the hard part about doing video is I can't pause and have Julius edit it out. I've got these notes that I look at as we do this, and I'm just like, what did I forget? But I got to roll with it. So this is as behind the scenes as you get. This is raw video. We do what we do to connect and educate and entertain the traditional martial artists of the world, because I have a belief that martial arts makes people better, and that if we could get everybody in the world to train for just 6 months, the world would be a dramatically better place. That is the founding mission of Whistlekick. So there you go. Well, trivia time, not trivia time. Why do I keep wanting to call this trivia? Because rapid fire trivia is something that Gabe throws at us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what it is. Rapid fire Q&A. And that is a self-selection, so I don't get bogged down and spend 45 minutes talking about a single topic.
Oh, you and me both.
Because I like to talk. That's probably why I host a show, because I enjoy talking. And you do too, which is why I invited you to co-host a show.
Yep.
We enjoy discussion of martial arts. Well, we've got some questions here. We've got some things we can chat about. And we're going to put a timer on it. We're going to put 5 minutes up. No, you're not going to see that on the video version because, well, actually, maybe Julius to do that. I don't know. We'll find out. But at the very least, Andrew's going to keep me honest and make sure that I don't spend more than 5 minutes talking about any of these things. So what do we got first?
All right. So the first topic was sent in by Matt Nather, and his suggestion for something to discuss really quickly is requirements for testing for fourth dan or master's rank. So 4th degree black belt, master's rank, in Taekwondo would be typically master rank. What requirements for testing should that look like?
Tell me to go.
5 minutes, go.
Okay. So first off, I'm not a big fan of the term master because I think that it's a misnomer within the martial arts. I think mastery is a much higher level of competency than a 4th degree. And that is just based on the general time that it goes in. And I don't want to spend time digging into that, but maybe that's another question for another time. When I think about someone who is in that 4th, 5th, 6th degree range, right? It's not early black belt. It's not 1st. It's not 2nd. It's not 3rd. If you've spent much time in martial arts, you know that most people don't even make it to black belt. But those that do earn a 1st degree black belt or an equivalent in some other style often fade away. I achieved my goal because the goal set in front of them was 1st degree. So we look at the sheer number of people who achieve a 1st degree that don't make it to 2nd degree. And it's huge. It's a large percentage. I have no data on that because I don't know that anybody's tracking data on that. Maybe someday when we have a lot of money, we can do that. But once you get to 2nd, you're kind of saying, okay, I'm in this, and I see a smaller drop off between 2nd and 3rd and 4th. So the question then is, what is different for someone when they've earned a 4th degree, what I would call the beginning of middle black belt rank, that is not true of someone who is a, let's say, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd? I think it's a couple things. First, I think it is a deeper understanding of the non-physical aspects of the art. Okay, so when I think about the people that I've known who earn a first degree black belt, they have competency. They know how to do things. They have maybe some understanding, depending on the school and the system, of why, maybe even when and how. But they don't generally understand where things come from and how to necessarily adapt to things that are not for them, right? I'm a small person. I'm 5'7". There are things in the way I spar that someone who is 6'4" might not do, and vice versa. I would imagine, or I would say that someone who is a fourth degree, an expert or approaching expertise on the path to expertise, has an ability to empathize with other body types, other quote unquote whys for people starting martial arts, and they're able to take what they know and convey it to those people in a way that resonates. I think that's probably the biggest thing for me. I can teach someone who's 6'4". I can teach someone that's 6'4" how to spar. I can teach them how to utilize their assets, the length of their limbs, their ability to get in and out of trouble when they're combative in a way that I will never be able to do. I understand it intellectually. I can teach it. Or if you checked out our episode a couple of weeks ago, I can instruct it maybe, but I don't understand it personally. It's a difference. It's an important difference. On top of that, I think there is a commitment to progress. I think if you're going to earn a fourth degree black belt, I think the door gets, I think in most school systems, the door is now wide open. There is unlikely to be anything that is held back, and it is up to you to invest your time and your energy understanding as much as you can in what is being presented to you. Unlike maybe a first degree black belt where it's okay, you've reached the top of that mountain, and from the top of that mountain you see, holy cow, there's more. By the time you get to fourth-ish degree, which, you know, why am I being vague? Because it's different in different schools. By the time you reach that fourth-ish degree, you have climbed high enough that you can now get context for how much there is. Maybe you're never going to reach the top of the mountain. Maybe you will never fully understand and demonstrate expertise in the information that is available to you, but you have the ability to do so. And I think I'll wrap it there.
Excellent. Wow, you had 15 seconds to spare.
Hey, boom.
That was good.
Thank you. I'm trying to wrap it. I don't want you to cut me off.
I know you don't, but I've got to. I've got to cut you off.
We'll see what happens. We'll see.
All right.
I could just talk faster if need be. I've given a lot of presentations to a lot of big rooms for a lot, you know, with a lot of money at stake. This is a skill that I have that doesn't usually surface on this show.
No, see, if you talk faster than the people that listen at 1.5 speed, then it'll be too fast for them.
Oh, I don't know. Sound like the Chipmunks.
Or the Micro Machines guy. I'm dating myself now.
Wow, I haven't thought about Micro Machines in like 20 years. Oh, we got to have a conversation about that after the show. All right, keep going. What's next?
All right, so next, this question, this was actually brought up by a few people, and I think it's, we've done when I say we, you have done a bunch of episodes on training.
You can say you're part of the team.
Well, but you did them before I was on board. So Whistlekick has done a lot of episodes recently about training during COVID. You know, it is something that has been here for 9+ months at this point. And will be going away at some point, hopefully.
I hope so.
But here's a question that I don't know that you have done a lot on, and it was brought up by a few people, and ways to build school morale during quarantine.
Yeah. So this is where I kind of put more of the business consulting hat on. For people who don't know, I do consult with some martial arts schools as part of the marketing business work that I do, and that work is part of what props up Whistlekick financially as we continue to find paths to profitability. And I'm thinking of one school in particular, and I don't know that they want me to shout them out, so I'm not going to. But he's probably listening, and he knows I'm talking about him. So shout out to my buddy there. Um, we spent a lot of time on this because when you think about it, if you go back to the out of sequence episodes I released at the beginning of lockdowns, I said, what is the thing you have to do? You have to convey so much value. What your school does has to be so valuable to people that they are desperate to hold on to it in any way they can and make sure that it's there when they can train. Right? We are, I believe, we are going into additional lockdowns. I think things are going to tighten up again. We're watching some of that internationally. I believe it is going to come here. So I think if you're a school owner, pay close attention to what I'm about to say. Value and morale are not quite interchangeable, but they correlate. What is morale? Morale is people's belief that what they are doing is worthwhile and makes them better. How do you keep your students motivated and excited and engaged? What you don't do might be the easier thing to say. You don't just show up on Zoom and teach a class. If that's the only thing you do, you're well, there's a good chance you don't have a school anymore if you did that for the last chunk of months. You have to adapt. And part of the reason I'm being vague is because what you do varies dramatically based on the art you do, the size of your school, the number of people you have helping you, the financial side of it, etc. For example, if you have a school where you've got a dozen assistant instructors, you could potentially have them work one-on-one or via small groups on Zoom. If you're a full-time non-martial arts instructor, you have a job and you're used to showing up and teaching a 90-minute class twice a week, you may not have the time to do that. So you may have to do things different. So what is it you do? The best example I can give of a morale booster that doesn't apply here is a barbecue out in the parking lot once a month after class, a potluck sort of a thing. Getting people to recognize that martial arts and martial artists doesn't stop at the door when you bow. The recognition that you are all individuals who value each other and finding ways to support that. So there are martial arts schools that have launched clubs. Okay, thank you. I thought Andrew's giving me a 2-minute sign. And at first I was like, there's only 2 schools that have done that. No, that's not right. But I'm wrapping my mind around this format. One of my sayings to my clients is that the negative is the positive. What's the negative here? For so many people, it's online only. What's the positive? You have the ability to present anything from your computer and see people and record it. One of the things that I have seen both in and outside of martial arts context that has surged since COVID, Dungeons and Dragons. So many people are playing D&D right now. Maybe that's not for you, but it's a great example. It's a great example of finding ways that people can engage with each other, learn about each other, develop who they are, build relationships as a result of their involvement in a martial arts school. And if you use that as an example, and if you use that as the goal, there are a lot of things that you can do. Phone calls, emails, photos, all the things that maybe you kind of did for marketing purposes before. What if you put more of a personal bent on it? What if you give people the opportunity to be more involved and set the direction and create more of a community feel? I think that's an important aspect to it. What if, maybe you can't have the barbecue in the parking lot, but what if it's a once a month virtual barbecue? Everybody shows up, they sit down with their dinner, and you chat it up. Maybe your school is too big and you can't do 200 people at once. So you put them in groups. You randomly assign people to 8, 10, 12 person groups and say, you know what? By the time we come back, you are all responsible for each other to make sure that you get back to class. You're responsible for driving each other's training. Maybe you make a game out of it. Maybe there's a point system with rewards. If you're creative, if you're willing to take a step back and recognize that the goal of a martial arts school is to develop the personal growth of the people involved, not necessarily just to teach how to punch and kick, I think this becomes a lot easier to understand.
Time. That was perfect. Now, granted, I gave you 15 extra seconds because, Well, because you stopped to talk about my peace sign or
Oh,
two
well,
two
thank you.
schools, so I gave you extra because that's not fair. That was good.
Thanks.
No, yeah, excellent.
Anything you want to add there?
No, I don't want to go over. No, we're
Okay.
good.
All right,
We're good.
keep going.
If I have a vastly different opinion than you, I'll maybe say something. But
Okay.
no, it's pretty good. So here's this leads into a question actually that I have brought up.
Okay.
And you mentioning the barbecue social aspect
Yeah.
of your school leads into this question. And my question is, what are your thoughts on instructors being friends with students?
You're underscoring that word friends, which is
Yes,
important.
because there's a very discussed episode
We
on
released an episode that
relationships.
was rather divisive on romantic relationships within schools. Yes.
And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm
Not
talking
where we're
about
going.
friends.
Okay. So one of my fundamental beliefs is that the majority of people cannot maintain multiple and distinct relationships with a single person. This is why it's really hard for people to be, uh, you know, it's why back when I had a computer company, it was hard for me to be friends with my employees because to go out and have a beer with them and be peers and then to step back into the job and maybe, their boss, that was really hard. And initially it was hard for me. Ultimately, I got better at that, but it still remained hard for the employees. It's a little bit easier based on my management style to give people some leeway, but it was tough for them. And I think the same thing applies in a martial arts setting. When I think of instructors who have done this well, it's not frequent. And it usually has the context of a martial arts event. So, like a summer camp, martial arts summer camp, where maybe at the end of the weekend or the end of the day, within meals, they'll take off their martial arts uniform. They're wearing street clothes like most people are. And they may or may not, depending on who's there in the formality, permit being called by their first name. But it can also be really difficult. If you've been training a while and you have an instructor that you've spent a long time with, and you're used to calling them Mr. or Mrs. or Sensei or Sifu, it can become really challenging to switch those names back and forth. So is it necessarily bad? No, but it requires boundaries. And it requires both people fully understanding what those boundaries are together, being on the same page and respecting them. So let's say I have a martial arts school. I go out, I have a beer with the crew after we train. We sit down, let's say there's, a dozen of us and we're at a big table at a chain restaurant. I am not going to ask them to call me anything. I'm just going to let it hang. Most of them are probably going to call me, the term I prefer is sensei. So most of them are probably still going to call me sensei. I'm not going to correct them on that because I want them to be comfortable. I'm not going to be dramatically different in the way that I present myself. For example, I would never swear, rarely swear in the context of teaching martial arts. In my personal day-to-day life, I kind of have the vocabulary of a sailor, but I'm not going to do that when I'm at a bar having a drink with my students because I don't want them to have to work hard to switch back and forth between Jeremy the teacher and Jeremy the not teacher. Could I? Yeah. Could I write it out and say, hey, here are the rules if I'm going to do this? Sure. But I'm sure there are people watching or listening who think I'm overreacting. And I would almost guarantee that 100% of those people have never had someone transition from student to friend and then disrespect them in the midst of a class and put everything that you're building at risk. That's the challenge. It's not, the problem isn't when it goes right. The problem is when it goes wrong. The problem is when you talk to your friend as a friend and then they use that information even unwillingly or without being aware within class. They make a joke that's at your expense, something to that effect. And it can be really destructive and it can put other people around you in a really tough situation. And it sucks because there's a good chance that the people who love martial arts are the people you want to be friends with. It's probably the thing you have most in common. And if somebody's passionate about martial arts, they probably have a lot in common with you. There's probably a ton you could talk about. But it doesn't always work out. And in fact, I would say that inevitably, because there's a chance it's not going to work out, given enough time, it will never work. There will always be something that pops up for everyone. When I think about the instructors, the people that I love, think very highly of, I've screwed up at some point with almost every one of them. Given enough time, I probably would, especially you put a beer in my hand. Alcohol reduces inhibitions. It makes people think that things that are okay aren't okay. So if you're going to do it, be careful and maybe even write out some guidelines and maybe even share them with the students so everybody knows what's going on.
Awesome. Good job. 5 minutes. Exactly. Another one right on the button. All right. Are you ready for the last one?
I am. Let's do it.
Okay. This was sent in through our Facebook from Daniel Eagles. And his question is, how much of a class should be aimed at fitness drills rather than teaching technique? And does this differ if you're thinking about kids or adults?
It's a good question.
And hang on. Ready? And go.
I think it depends greatly on the stated goal of the class. So I could teach, let's say I'm teaching karate. I could teach karate as a fitness class. I can teach karate as a self-defense class. I can teach karate as a competitive class. Same techniques, same body of information. I'm going to use different amounts of it in different contexts to get different goals. When when someone says, how do you teach kids versus adults? I actually don't teach it that differently. I start with fun. If it's not enjoyable, people don't come back. If they don't come back, they don't learn. And sometimes people will hear that and they'll initially reject what I'm saying and say, oh, but it's got to be serious and effective. I've had a ton of fun getting punched in the face by people that I really value in certain contexts, right? Serious martial arts can also be fun. Genuine, legitimate, effective, self-defense applicable martial arts can be a tremendous amount of fun. I haven't been doing it as long as I have without having fun doing it. I didn't invest everything I own and have and am into a company that supports traditional martial arts without thinking it's a ton of fun. That would be ridiculous. Now, what a 4-year-old finds fun and what a 50-year-old finds fun are probably a little different. I'm probably going to use fewer. Here's a great example. The way I teach in Japanese, a kiai, in Taekwondo, a ki-up, a yell, whatever you want to call it. The way I teach that to kids uses a lot of animals or monster personification. I'm probably not going to do that with a 50-year-old. They're probably not going to resonate as well when I say, all right, I want you to think of the scariest monster you can. And when I say go, you're going to shout as loud as you can. The 50-year-old, I'm going to have more of a philosophical discussion. I'm going to get them to do more of that thought process internally because kids are much more willing to have fun yelling and being loud than most adults are. I can still make it fun. The way we're going to teach, let's say, stances, I might use different vocabulary. I might use different goals. I might break things down differently. You got to keep kids moving. The moment kids stop moving, you're done. You can't have a philosophical discussion with a group of 4-year-olds. They're going to eat you. Maybe, if you're bad enough, literally bite you. I've seen it happen. Not to me, but I've seen it happen. So when we talk about how to get these goals across, you got to work backwards from the why. What's the purpose of the class? Why are people there? Understanding why they're there, making sure they're enjoying themselves, and then breaking things up in such a way that it resonates for the majority of people within the context of what you've presented to them. If you just tell them, hey, we have a martial arts class, they're potentially all there for different reasons. You're going to have people who are there for self-defense. You're going to have other people who are there for fitness. So in that context, it becomes making sure there's enough of everything, that everyone finds progress among something that is of importance to them. If you have someone come into a school that is really hell-bent on doing forms, and I love forms, but that person doesn't love forms, if 3/4 of the class, every class is forms, you're probably going to lose that person. But if once in a while 3/4 of that class is something else that makes them happy, that they really feel passionate about, and they can see progress in themselves, that's a key. Then that's how you go forward with it. May have been a little bit dodgy in my answer because there are so many opportunities for different specifics, but I'm hoping that I put that forward in a way that is understandable for people given different contexts. Did I do that, Andrew?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you came around in the middle there. It was a little like, okay, but he's asking about how much of the class should be aimed towards fitness or other stuff. But you came around at the end and saying that it varies depending on what your students in the class are expecting. You know, I've never been to. I'm gonna date myself again. I've never been to a Billy Blank's karate class, but I suspect his classes are a little more fitness oriented.
I would say they are. Maybe they weren't back in the day.
And maybe you'll find out because maybe you'll do an interview with someone who trained with Billy Blanks.
I've been trying to get Billy Blanks on the show.
I might be able to help make that happen.
That would be awesome. It's the why matters. People forget how important the why is. Everything you do, work backwards from the why. And if you don't know what the why is, it's time to put that down. It's time to understand it. If you're a martial arts instructor and you don't know why your students are there, find out. Talk to them. Don't take their reasons, their why, for granted. Information is never bad.
Excellent.
All right. That was it? How'd we do?
That was good. I mean, I asked 4 questions. You answered them. I gave you 5 minutes. You took 5 minutes. That was good.
All right. Let's close this thing out. All right. So if you want to ask a question, best place, jump in on the Facebook Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio behind the scenes group. You can ask a question in there. Andrew, I'm sure that as we try to get this format going a little bit stronger, you'll post in there again to ask people for these sorts of questions. Great.
Yep.
When this one goes live, it's 577. You'll be able to find it in there. And just so people know, like, you can always jump back and search there. You can go to whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. You can search there. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on with these shows that will give you more context. You know, with the interviews, we've got photos and links and all kinds of stuff like that. And possibly most importantly, if you want to help us out, if you want to support what we're doing, help offset some of the costs, make a purchase at whistlekick.com, throw some money at the Patreon, tell other people about us so we can grow. So hopefully they will buy something or throw money at the Patreon, right? We are a community, and we are a community of passionate traditional martial artists who want, I don't want to say what everybody wants. I want everybody to feel engaged and supported in their training, because I think that makes it more likely that people will remain training, and martial artists are better people. If you see somebody out there wearing Whistlekick stuff, say hi, follow us on social media. We're at Whistlekick everywhere. My email's jeremy@whistlekick.com. Throw me guest suggestions, feedback, topic suggestions. I'll share them with Andrew. And that's it. So thanks for joining us. And until next time, train hard,
Train hard,
smile, and have a great day.